kind of tired today. The whole weekend I've done a lot of workout training, and yeah, today is kind of the day I'm taking off. But things are still pretty much the same. I've been feeling pretty crappy in terms of feeling rejected. Misunderstood, alone. Other situations have come up, and I know it's a wave, so I'm dealing through it one small step at a time. And like I said, this vocalizing on video tends to help me at least get it off my chest. I thought I wouldn't have anything to say, but then it got to a point that I do, so here I am. I got a email from my bank with my father's name on it, saying that I should email back or call regarding him. I didn't answer back. I felt it was kind of rude. I don't know this person, and I had previously asked for help. I got limited help when I was able to bring my father to the bank, because I don't have power of attorney to help him, or to deal with his finances. I got limited power help from my father himself when he I went with him and we got checks, and I was in his name from one of his accounts, and I was able to transfer money to the home I have him in, and also take some of it as an inheritance, but from there I wasn't able to get power of attorney because of the way he set things up. Basically he controlled everything until the very last minute when my mother died, and now he just feels like shit and he wants to die. So on my end, it was difficult because my father's basically using me with money to try to get and help him, because when my mother died, he wanted me to move in with him, and I went to California because I don't want to have anything to do with him. He needs to take care of himself. He always needed to take care of himself instead of relying on my mother, who he kept under lock and key, as a little puppy dog to help him. So, that being said, as I tried to get power of attorney, he was saying to me personally, just do it, pay an attorney. We have an attorney, a notary, and she's an attorney also, and she'll help you. She didn't want to help because she said he's not of sound mind. So, and I tried other attorneys, notaries, and then I also tried to get his medical records. I did get his medical records. And basically it says, he's not really sound mind, only with limited sound mind, which makes me angry, because the whole thing that started this, of him being in the home, which I, pretty much took care of, I guess, is that the social worker that was working with him told me that he was of sound mind to be able to sell his house. That she had called me saying that they put a block on it because they didn't think he was of sound mind because he did it so quickly. Does that make sense? So then when I got the medical records, I had to get them on my own because the social worker stopped answering my emails. I guess she was no longer on the case. And being that the bank was giving me limited access also, even though I went with my father so they'd see who I am, they can only do so much, I guess. And so I got the medical records, and I showed them to a notary, and that notary wouldn't take the case either because it said he was limited. He had help to be able to do that, sell the house, that is, and it was a social worker that helped and whatever. Not exactly those words. It was, he can do things with help. But I know a lot of the financial stuff. When my mother died, my father's actual funeral has been paid for. Obviously, things in that nature, the social worker had helped him with that, I believe. So anyways, notaries have told me, a couple notaries have told me that I just have to get a doctor to go visit and say that he's of sound mind. And my father doesn't hear very well, and my father doesn't speak English very well, and my father, he's a Russian immigrant, or Polish immigrant, or somewhere in Europe, because it's an area that changed, mutated, and my father doesn't really talk about what he does, when he does talk, it's always in nostalgic stories, and it's always repetitive, but you never get to really know about him. I never get to really know about him, which I believe that's a narcissistic thing. He doesn't have a personality, he doesn't have a sense of self, he doesn't have, obviously he went through a lot of traumas, but whatever. So when I tried to get a doctor to go to the home, and I'd be there and I'd help out with getting him to understand that if he's okay or whatever, that I could deal with his finances and then take care of what needs to be taken care of. The home, which the person I was dealing with, I left a voicemail and she never returned a phone call. So I got the message, and she had called me a couple times since, saying that I owed money for his medication from the pharmacy, because I said I would take care of that. But we're talking like $70. And I got the message that, the person in charge of the home obviously wants, it's a business, and she was getting fed up. She was getting fed up, dealing with me, not the no, let me rephrase that. Once she got the money for my father being at the home, which is $2,000 a month, she didn't want to have to deal with me anymore, and it showed. And the fact that she didn't return my call showed that. And then she called and wanted the money for that, and I'm pretty sure she just went back into my father's bank account. I'm pretty sure that's easy to do, and she took the money herself. Which is a good thing for me in the sense that I don't have access to my father's accounts. Chuck said he did right. I used one of them to pay for my, the rest of my condo. And I realized that that's all I need. I don't want to have to deal with getting close to my father because of money. So I cut contact. I realized it's the same situation that I would always go home to my parents' house so they would pay for my bus pass. Does that make sense? And then once they stopped doing that, I had no reason to go there because there was no love there. There was no family there. And so it's kind of being replayed now. After I kept getting a couple of calls from the old age home about the money. They stopped calling, of course. And they called once to say that they left a message saying he was in the hospital. Fine. I didn't get any email from the hospital because they have my email. The social workers have my email on record, so they would email me. So if they didn't, I know it's not that serious. Because my father would be like, he's the type of person that you feel sorry for him because he's a frail old man. He was always a frail old man. He would always be able to win people's sympathy. That's kind of how he works in his narcissistic way. In a covert narcissistic way, you feel he's a victim, he's a victim, he's this, but meanwhile he, broke my mother's arm, gave me black eyes, but he's the victim, you know what I mean? So, anyways, I got one call from the hospital. It was an internist, and saying that it wasn't urgent, but just to kind of deal with my father. He's in pain and what to do. And so it took me a while to get back to the hospital because she didn't leave a proper extension, and I had to figure out how to go through it, and I had to also go psychologically deal with it, and it took me a while because I have to be mentally prepared to deal with bullshit. So without telling someone off. So when I did call, they had no idea who this doctor was, and they said I should call the home and deal with their personal doctor who did. The home never told me they had a personal doctor, which is my message that I had left on the voicemail. So I realized this was kind of bullshit. And now leading to this email from the bank of this woman who I don't know. Obviously, they were called. There's probably not money left in one of the accounts, and they want permission to get the other account to keep paying for his home, his old age home. Well, first of all, I don't have power of attorney, so it's going to be up to the bank to be able to let me have access to pay for the rest of his home. But on the second hand, don't need to pay for his home because put him in, my father doesn't even know that he's paying for it, even though I keep telling him that it's coming out of his money. But apparently, if nothing is done, they could have put him into public assistance housing type thing. So basically the reason of this video is I'm just I've been over it. I will deal with it when he dies type thing. But being cast into this web of things was not good for my health, and it's not helping because there have been so much resistance. I'm over that, you know. So it's not supposed to be that difficult, you know. I was full game helping and open to help, and you know, but I realize it's just bullshit. So it's a tough situation because it's coming at a time where I'm dealing with other things at the same time. People not reaching out, and so then you wonder if it's what's going on. And that's why it's a trying situation. You know, trying to reach out to people. And people go through their things, which is understandable. And sometimes people, you know, try to manipulate you. So that's kind of where I am right now. And I know this will pass. It is difficult right now. Thought I would just talk about it. And focus on the more important things, which are my day-to-day things to progress me to where I want to go. And who knows, maybe these YouTube videos will be where I progress. I still only have 1 subscriber, but on some videos there's a couple of views. Not many, just a couple. It gives a glimpse of hope. And I feel I've at least started to overcome a certain wall by starting another YouTube channel, which is this one, which is completely separate from my other one. And then that opens up ideas that for all my interests, I can open several YouTube channels and be able to talk about them. I won't say anonymously, but you know, people on my Facebook, people I know who know me don't know this. Eventually, I'm sure if something gets big, then it'll all come out. But you gotta start somewhere, right? So it's about breaking the silence. It's about doing what you feel is right. And it may not be seen well, but it's about, you know, what you see is right, even if people don't understand it. So I think that's about it for this conversation.